almost all set.
Ready? Great. Welcome tonight to the hardy few who've made it out to our league forum, and wanted to say that we're pleased to have our panelists here tonight, two candidates for the Athens County Treasurer, Rick Wasserman and Peter Katsas. And this event is sponsored by the League of Women Voters, an organization dedicated to increasing awareness of governmental affairs. And so during voter season, primary, and the general election, we often have these candidates forums. It's an opportunity to find out more about the candidates, to ask questions, to look at different issues. So tonight we're a very informal group because we normally have some questions from the press, but we have just learned that the press is probably not going to be with us tonight. So audience questions are encouraged. And then after we have the opening session and those audience questions, maybe we'll even open it up for just informal discussion. We'll see how that goes. I think that given the circumstances with what's going on in the community and few people who felt comfortable with turning out tonight, that we ought to be able to vary the routine a little bit. I would like to tell you a little bit of a story just about the League of Women Voters. When I came to Athens 20-some years ago, it was one of the first organizations that somebody contacted me about and encouraged me to join. It was Pat G., who was a former council member, and just a wonderful person, and I think introduced me to one of the best organizations I've been involved with in this community. Because I think it gave me the confidence, but then also the background to say, so what are the issues in our community? And what's a fair way of looking at those different things and voicing our opinions, but also voicing our concerns and asking questions. So with that, turn it over to the moderator, Helen King. We have Carol Patterson acting as the reviewer of questions, Marty Delato, who's our timekeeper for the opening and closing statements, and the responses to the questions. And there we go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Welcome to the Candidates Forum, and I'll begin by explaining the procedure for this evening's event. Each candidate has gotten these ahead of time, and there will be opening statements by the candidates, questions from the Bantam media representatives, and then questions from the public, and then closing statements. And as Chris suggests, perhaps we'll just have an opportunity to have an informal discussion after the questions. To the candidates, you will each have 3 minutes for an opening statement, and 2 minutes for a closing statement, and 1.5 minutes for each question. The opening and closing statements will be done with Mr. Wasserman beginning and Mr. Katsas going second. And the timekeeper, hello Marty, is sitting in the front row, and when there is a half minute left, she will give you the sign, then fix it 15 seconds, and then time. And when she says time, I will say thank you, and we will move on. Audience, please turn off your cell phones. We request that you treat all of the candidates fairly, and please remain quiet during the forum. No clapping or yelling or otherwise reacting. You're encouraged, you may though at the end clap for both of the candidates. You're encouraged to ask questions for the candidates. There are papers provided. If you're not sitting where there's a piece of paper and you would like to get a question, go and snag a piece of paper and a pencil. There are a few up front here. So the questions must be addressed to all the candidates and must apply to the issues or qualifications of their particular office. Raise your hand if you would like some more paper other than what you have, and when you want your questions collected. And we review the questions to make sure that they're readable, that they're applicable for both candidates, and that they're not duplications of something that's already been asked. So if your question doesn't get asked, it may be because it was so similar to, oops, hello, another question that's already been asked. So thank you very much, and we will begin with our opening statement from Rick Wasserman.
Thank you so much. Welcome to everyone. You are sparse, but you are privileged. Hopefully we'll have a great time tonight, and everybody gets a chance to learn a little bit about the treasurer's position. My name is Rick Wasserman. For the last 20 months or so, it has been my singular pleasure to be the Athens County Treasurer. I am an Athens Countian by choice. I came here many, many years ago to go to school. I loved the place. I left with my degree for a number of years and always knew that I would come back. And I did come back in 1991 as a full-time resident, and I've been here ever since. In 1994, I opened my first business, and all that time since, I've had one or more businesses operating, making a payroll twice a month, every single month, month after month. Athens is just a great place. I'm sure you'll all agree, and we all love the lifestyle that we have here. In 2018, my predecessor left office just 6 months into his second term, and that made the position open, and I sought the appointment from the Democratic Central Committee, which I got, and then had to run in an election in 2018. So if some of you are wondering why I'm running again after having just run a race in 2018, it's because when someone leaves midterm and there's a whole lot of time left on it, you have to run a special election. So in 2020, every treasurer in the state is up for re-election, and so that's why this position is on the ballot again. I originally wanted to be treasurer because I'm a financial guy and I love public service, and I knew that if I was going to have a government type position, it was going to be in the financial sector. I have a passion for government done well. I think that those people who are always saying a government can't do anything right, I think they're completely wrong. I think that the fact is that when we pool our resources and we come together as people and we try our very best to do the best that we can for the taxpayers, that's when we're at our best as people. And I have tried to instill that into the Treasurer's office every day that I've been there in the last 20 months. We've had some tremendous successes in the office over that time. We've managed to make a large dent in the delinquent tax situation that the county has had for many, many years, going back probably 20 or 30 years. We've been able to have the land bank begin, and it's an organization that was brand new when I came to office, and my partner Chris Schmiel and I, he's county commissioner, we really figured out how to run that thing and how to make it work for the county, and we've had some tremendous successes with that. And I love my job, and I'm hoping to keep doing it for another term. I'd like to have a full 4-year term, and so that's why I'm here tonight. Thank you.
All right. Sorry, I'm going to move this in a little bit closer. All right. Good evening, and thank you, everybody. Thank you to the League for putting on another one of these. And so I'm Peter Katsas, born and raised in Athens County. And how I got to this spot, I'll try to give you a very short synopsis. I grew up here. I went to school both through the public school system, through Ohio University, and I started a business. And during that time, I was always a involved citizen. I was always paying attention. I started going to meetings, and I just was a participant, listening more than anything else, because it takes a while to wrap your head around what the challenges and opportunities are of a region. And so I had a lot of mentors during that time. There were a lot of people that I looked up to, that I learned a lot from. And I always tell the story that one day I walked into the room and I was the oldest person in there. And so at that point I recognized that this was now my time to start offering my input of what I had learned, moving forward. And so during the time that I was running my business, married, starting my family, I decided that I wanted to run for political office. So I didn't really come into politics in in kind of a standard fashion. It was more of a kind of just a a grassroots type of finding of it. And after now I'm serving my third term on Athens City Council. It's an honor to serve the public. I truly enjoy it. I take it very seriously, and I understand what has been bestowed upon me. That trust and that willingness to allow you to make those decisions. And it's not everything that I've learned. It's also the continuing conversations that I have with community members in order to make sure that what we're doing is correct and right. And so it allows me to come forward into every conversation and kind of understand where we're trying to go as a community. So when I look to the Treasurer's Office, I see something that allows me to continue to work with the public. It gives you new tools to kind of help specific situations, especially when it comes to people that are dealing with delinquent taxes, that are past due. You have the ability to really work with them, and that is the charge of this office that I am truly excited, is where I could really get in and try to help people, through keep their dignity and keep their property, but at the same time collect for those levy-driven initiatives.
Thank you. Well, since there are not any members of the media here, I'm going to ask one very obvious question. Starting with Mr. Katzis, can you explain what the county treasurer does?
The county treasurer is it's the bank. It's the bank of the county. So basically, we're talking about the collection of taxes for any levy-driven initiative. So that's what your schools, your public library, EMS. There are there's cemeteries that will that rely on that additional. So we're out there collecting. I act like I just said that was part of the. So basically, we are in that we're the tax collector, and so that is the main charge of the office. Of course, the land bank, which Mr. Wasserman also mentioned, that's a newer component, and that is really helping to reinvigorate our communities. It gives people a chance to get out of a situation that they might not be able to, where you can clear tax rolls and actually clean up a property, and so that is also another important tool that's in the toolbox.
The county treasurer is indeed the county's bank, and what that means is not just that we collect all the property taxes, which in fact we do. We are also the place where county entities come with their money. So if you pay for a dog license at the auditor's office, that money winds up in our office. If you go and adopt a dog at the dog shelter and you pay an adoption fee, that money comes to our office. And it's the treasurer that has the banking relationship with the actual bank. So most of the county offices, with the exception of really only some in the prosecutor and the clerk of courts, deposit all of their revenue to the county treasurer's office, and we reconcile that revenue with the auditor's office to make sure it gets posted correctly. The county treasurer's office is part of the checks and balance system that the legislature has set up with the auditor's office to ensure that no one group of people is doing everything financially. Essentially, it breaks down like this. We're in charge of the income, the auditor is in charge of paying. The auditor is the paymaster, they pay all the payroll, they pay all the bills. She's also the chief financial officer of the county in terms of accountant. But we are the place where the money gets collected and deposited and then of course invested. So we're in charge of investing all of the money. On any given day, Athens County might have about $60 million running through the whole system, but about $30 million of that is investable funds that are what we call inactive funds, and I'm the officer in charge of investing that. And in addition to that, we also run the land bank and various other smaller projects.
Thank you. Regarding the investments, this is a question I hope that you can both answer. We'll start with Mr. Wasserman this time. How has the decline of the stock market hurt our county's investments, and do we need to put our money into other instruments?
That's a great question. The decline of the stock market itself hurts us in very indirect ways because the legislature doesn't allow us to invest in marketable securities like stocks or most corporate bonds. The way that it affects us is when the stock market tanks, the first thing they do is cut interest rates, and interest rate cuts do affect our income. So where we were looking at an average interest rate about a year ago of maybe 2 to 2.5% on most of the investments that we were making, now we're looking at 1.25% to 1.5%, and after this latest cut, it's going to go even lower than that. Most of the county's funds are invested in things like CDs or agency bonds. That would be maybe the Farm Credit Bureau or Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, that sort of thing. We do invest in some commercial paper, which is essentially corporate debt. But you don't invest in marketable securities that have a chance to go down. So the number one rule is anything that could lose value of the principal, we're not allowed to do. So the stock market decline has a very indirect but yet a significant effect on our county finances. You'll see that last year we made about $750,000 on our investments. This year, we projected it would be about 625, but given the interest rate cuts that we've had, it could be a little lower than that now.
And I think that and I think Mr. Wasserman alluded to this, but basically, there's a certain set of rules. The Ohio Revised Code. You only are allowed to do certain things, so you can't get very creative and start really moving things around in order to try to offset something. So it's not the same as a standard, your standard investments where you could maybe try to make some shifts. It's really kind of just staying on the boat and taking the ride.
Thank you. Let's see. All right. Let's start with Mr. Kotsis this time. What is a tax lien certificate, and how are those used in the treasurer's office?
A tax lien, is that pertaining to? Well, that is when the tax liens. What I'm aware of with this is that the tax liens are, and you said it's the paper.
Yes, I believe it's a tax lien certificate.
So this is something that could be sold on the open market. And Mr. Wasserman, please correct me if I'm incorrect on this, but this would be in an instance of, say, like taxees would be someone that would be purchasing this. If we had the opportunity to sell a tax lien to a private company, this is the instrument that is utilized for that. Is that correct?
Yep. You're the man.
No, I'm saying I'm done right here, so I'm going to ask you.
A tax lien certificate is a type of financial instrument. If somebody's delinquent on their taxes, we can take the debt that they owe. So if they owe $2,000 from 2 years ago they haven't paid, we can take that debt, we can print it on a piece of paper, and we can sell it like any other debt. And the reason that this is done is to try to collect taxes from folks who just simply won't pay. There are folks who get letters, they get bills, and they're just simply not interested in paying their taxes. When you sell a tax lien certificate, you're essentially outsourcing the debt. And you sell that certificate to a private company, and those folks no longer owe the money to the county. The county gets paid 100% cash on the barrelhead as soon as you sell the certificate, and their taxes appear to be paid on the duplicate, but the private company is now essentially a collection agency, and they go and they get those people to pay. The reason that we do this is, there are many reasons why we do this, but the main reason is that you cannot foreclose and sell at a sheriff's sale every house that goes delinquent in the county. We just simply don't have enough lawyers to prepare the cases, and you just can't do that. But there's a 100% chance that if you don't pay a private company who's bought the debt, they will foreclose. And so the tax lien certificate is one tool in the toolbox to collect delinquent taxes. When my predecessor started it in 2014, the first couple of years it brought in several $1 million, and that goes directly to the schools, the townships, the villages, and all of the other entities that get money from the county tax rolls.
Thank you.
It almost requires more than a minute and a half, but unfortunately.
All right. Okay. You'll be first. first this time, Mr. Wasserman, and this is right along the same lines. Why aren't delinquent houses sold at the sheriff's sale instead of decaying or just going into the land bank? What are the pros and cons of that?
So it's important to understand that the idea of a sheriff's sale is an outcome of a foreclosure. If we could just take a house that hasn't paid its taxes and sell it, on day one, that would make everybody's job a lot easier. But the Constitution has a Fifth Amendment that says you can't take someone's property without due process of law, and so the due process of law is a foreclosure action. Banks in the area file foreclosures all the time, and those foreclosed properties do wind up being sold either at a sheriff's sale or by a private seller. But there just simply isn't enough legal ability within the county, on the county's payroll, to prepare all the taxes that we would have to do to foreclose on everybody who's tax delinquent. Plus, having an intermediate step, like selling tax lien certificates, gives us time to work with that taxpayer where they can pay off that debt over time. It pushes the possibility of foreclosure out at least a year, because when a company buys a tax lien certificate, they're not permitted to foreclose for at least 1 year. And also, it gives the schools and the townships and everybody the money right up front, and then the taxpayer then has an ability to go and engage in a payment plan and pay those taxes off over time. So, but to answer the question again about the sheriff's sale, is just simply not enough ability to create all the cases necessary and sell all those properties for everybody who's gone delinquent.
And that one, I've been interested in that one because I've been thinking about taxes and the burden that it does put on the property owners. And so, I understand that some people ignore the possibility that their property could be foreclosed on. But when you sell a parcel off to taxees, you are getting your money up front, but you are also relinquishing all control over that transaction moving forward. So, the public that you're supposed to represent is now no longer under your jurisdiction. So when I look at these different tools and instruments, I would want to scrutinize a lot of the situations to make sure that the right ones are being used in the right situation, because I think that serving the public is foremost. Collecting the tax, there's a huge balance here, and it's something that you would really you have to weigh almost every situation in specific to that situation, to make sure that you're doing the right thing.
Are there any other questions? That's all I got. Oh, there's one. No. Thank you.
Well, I haven't finished writing it. Okay.
Well, while we're waiting, I do have one. Can you, we'll start with Mr. Kotsis this time. Can you briefly tell us about the land bank? Oh.
There it is.
It must have been my reading. Sorry.
So the land bank, basically, it takes a property that is so far gone, in arrears, in taxes. Maybe the property itself has a house that's dilapidated, unlivable, could be a health or safety hazard, and it could just be an eyesore in a community. So what the land bank does is it has the ability to clear the tax rolls, so the property owner gets out from underneath all of that debt. And at the same time, there are grant dollars. Well, there's currently grant dollars that are in existence to help with demolition or just prepping the property for a new owner. New owners, basically, people can propose different ideas for different parcels, and the land bank board will look at those each case and try to make a decision on what's the best route forward for that property. But it basically expedites the process of cleaning up the property that you're not collecting tax on, getting it ready for a new owner that's going to pay tax on it. But at the same time, your communities get cleaned up. You can eliminate some blight. So there are some additional qualities that that really help the community as a whole.
One of the interesting things that I learned when I became treasurer is that I thought the position was all about money, and it turns out it's about half about money and it's about half about property. A tremendous amount of it's about property. I don't know, probably nobody can see this. I'm really into lapel pins. This one is a Swiss Army knife, and that's how we view what we do at the treasurer's office. We have the right tool for the right job, and in some cases, the right tool is a tax lien certificate, because when you send somebody a letter for that, people come streaming into the office to start payment plans and start paying. That's one of the other major advantages of those, is before we get to that, we have to send people a letter, and they come into the office and they say, oh no, I don't want that to happen, I'm going to do a payment plan. What do you do when you have a property that has no value anymore because it has $20,000 in taxes on it, and it's run down, and it's in a place where houses don't sell, and you essentially have a property with zero value? That's why we have a land bank, because the land bank can step into that situation, either take the property on donation, or more often have to run a foreclosure to get control of that property. But once we get that property, under the land bank law, the taxes and assessments that existed on it before are extinguished. And therefore, we can sort of reset the clock on that property, offer it to a new property owner who can then come forward, acquire that property, and do something with it that will produce tax money, where beforehand it wasn't producing anything. So that's the main value of the land bank. It's the ability to repurpose property that's gone fallow.
Thank you. Other questions?
More land bank questions.
Small round. I think we're starting with you, Mr. Wasser, and let's see if I can. Okay, here is the question. It's a two-parter. Part one, is there a program available for citizens who are not necessarily ignoring notifications of delinquency, but who are simply in financial hardship? And does the treasurer have the authority to set up payment plans or any other way to get creative with payment? Mr. Wasserman.
Resoundingly, yes. We do this every day. We have over 450 active payment plans in the office currently. Anyone who comes to the treasurer's office and says, I've got a problem, I can't pay this, help me, we help them. We don't take any punitive measures against anybody who shows a willingness to pay. So if you have delinquent taxes and you come to the office, we engage in a plan where you put down probably about 10% of what you owe. And then we figure out, well, what's a comfortable monthly payment for you? Oh, I can do $250. So we write a contract, and they agree to pay $250 every month. And in most cases, we'll take that directly from a savings account or a checking account, or they can come in and write a check. But either way, we're addressing their past delinquency, and then they're agreeing that as the new taxes come up, they're going to pay those going forward. That's a very important component of the payment plans. So yes, we do that. In addition to that, to keep people from getting in that situation, the treasurer's office offers what we call the Escrow Program, and I printed up these handy-dandy flyers a couple of years ago when I took office, because the Escrow Program allows you to take your twice yearly tax payment and turn it into a monthly payment. And we offer the same service. We can take the money directly from a savings or checking account. It goes into a county account. When the taxes come due, we take that money, transfer it to those taxes, notify them if there's an overage or a shortage, and everybody moves on to the next tax collection period doing the same thing. So in short, yes, if there's a willingness to pay, we're going to work with them.
Thank you. Mr. Katzis?
Yes, yeah, and there's 2 points that I can talk about with this one. One is Ohio State Code basically requires that you work with everyone. So if somebody comes in with an issue, you have the power. That's not only the power; it's your duty to work with that person. So everybody has that chance. The other thing too is that the treasurer has the discretion to they have the leadway to basically sculpt or craft any type of transaction specific to the situation. So, it takes looking at the, looking at the property, at the people, what their situation is, but you can take all of those different components and put them into play and really sculpt and craft something that's going to work specifically for that person.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? At this point,
So,
yes,
so if he's already doing that, why do you think you can do that better? I don't understand.
well, we do have to yeah.
So, welcome to the league.
We have rules.
This is
Okay,
I
Yeah.
get to do it. The only thing we ask, and even on this discussion on the questions, is we need you to shape the question in such a way that both people can answer it, so that both candidates can answer it. That's okay. You came in late, so I didn't.
So
yeah,
you
just
might want to say, how would you improve?
How would you improve that?
Other ways to. And then,
Just to follow up on that gentleman's question, I would ask Mr. Wasserman what he thinks he's doing well as treasurer, and Mr. Katsas what he thinks he can do better.
Or another way to shape it neutrally, what do each of you think you can bring to the job? Is that fair enough?
Who goes
Boy,
first?
who could, yeah.
I think Mr. Katsas ended last
I
time.
did,
so
I
he
did,
will
yes.
go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, so wait, I'm first? I'm
Yes.
first, okay, yep, okay, good. So it's, for me, I believe it's a different style of leadership. I possess a very collaborative, leadership style, and, it's something that I talked to in my opening comments. The idea before I make a decision. I'm willing to work with anyone. I'm willing to work with everyone. When I think about the different offices that you end up having to engage with when you talk about the checks and balances of the office versus the other offices that are there, that's where I feel like I could excel and make sure that the government is running smoothly and efficiently.
I sympathize with Pete. When you're running against an incumbent, you township trustees and the mayors out in the villages, or the other office holders in the county courthouse, or the agency heads. I mean, we work with people every day, and you have to, because we touch literally every office in the county. When I came to office, what I wanted to do was to make a plan to address the problems that we had. Humongous tax delinquency problem. At one point, it was $9 million. When I took office, it was in the $6.5 to $7 million range. We've knocked that down about $1 million now. We did that by taking a business outlook toward it and saying, well, this is a collection problem. Let's take this list of all these delinquent parcels. Let's break it out by taxing entity. You got your city of Athens, you got your village of Trimble, you got your city of Nelsonville, and then let's put that list in order from the top amount owed down to the bottom, and let's just start working that list. Let's call people. Let's find out who owns these buildings that aren't getting paid on. The Dollar General Corporation up in Gloucester wasn't paying their taxes. It took me like 12 phone calls to get to the right person. There was an apartment complex in Athens that owed $18,000 just because nobody had called them. The company got sold. They didn't get the tax bill. It's this kind of thing. You have to be doggedly determined that you're going to get that money for the county because it's owed, and I have a responsibility under the law to make sure that it gets collected. And it's that sort of approach. Yes, I love to collaborate. I love to solve problems. That's what we do at the land bank. But other things just require the business acumen to look at a problem and say, here's how we're going to solve that.
Thank you. Anything else? Sir?
I could probably come up with a few of them, but I'll probably start with this, just leading in on where things left off with the business-like approach. There's a hair of difference between running the government like a business and a business-like approach. So I always like to see the government run with an interest in the people rather than seeing the people as an economic opportunity to be tapped. My worry in something like the fast track movement of transfer of property is that in another county, this isn't Athens County, so don't get any ideas that this happened here, but I had a mutual friend with someone who lost their property. He was a professor, he was in the hospital, he was behind on his taxes. I don't know his whole story, but they fast-tracked his property. It was, the tax bill was sold to a corporation, and when he got out of the hospital, he didn't have a home. And I find this kind of thing really frightening. And the laws changed either late in the Reagan administration or early in the Bush administration that made the fast-track dispossession of property a possibility when it hadn't been earlier. And many states were very slow to like pick up on this and move forward with it. But I worry about the situation where somebody is in a situation where they have no control over it, they're injured, they're ill, they're out of town. Maybe it's a coronavirus this time, maybe it's a car crash. But that somebody could get behind on their taxes, and that we should be maybe filing a missing persons report rather than a delinquent tax report.
Can you think of a way to ask that as a question that both gentlemen can answer?
How can we protect people who are in unforeseeable circumstances that they can't do anything about, and they fall behind on their taxes, and they're perhaps for a time unable to deal with this? You know, a lot of us grew up with a different set of laws, and we still think that we can. The fast track movement isn't happening. So I wonder, how can people be protected if they're in a situation like that?
Thank you. Okay, I think it's your turn.
Yes,
first,
thank
Mr.
you for the question. I'm going to first of all say I have no idea what this fast track thing is that you're talking about. It's not part of Ohio law. We try to take a sensitive approach every day in dealing with taxpayers. Anything that we do has to conform to the Ohio Revised Code. So any action that we take almost certainly involves a certified letter that goes to somebody, often more than one. I personally try to investigate situations where if somebody's been paying their taxes year after year after year, and then all of a sudden they're not paying their taxes anymore, that's a strange situation, and usually that means something's going on. Somebody got sick, somebody passed away, and so, you know, I have some software where I can find phone numbers sometimes, and, you know, we spend a lot of time on these sorts of issues before we take really any action at all other than calling folks. So and as I said earlier, anyone who comes to the office and expresses a willingness to pay or a hardship of any sort, we're really, really good at working with those folks, right down to the penalties just for being late. If you pay your taxes a month late and you come to us and say, well, you know, I was in the hospital, or my mother was in the hospital, or my father died, you know, there's a form you can fill out. It goes to the Board of Revision, and in every one of those cases, we remit that penalty. So we do our best for the taxpayers that we can. In most of the situations with the land bank, when you're talking about fast tracking, these are properties where there is no owner. These owners fled years ago. In some cases, there was a flood and they left. In other cases, they just got tired of being a landlord in towns where that's difficult, and they just left.
Mr. Katsas.
Can you repeat the question again?
The question,
I know, I'm sorry.
I think the question boiled down to how can we protect people who are in a situation of hardship?
Unusual circumstances, where unforeseeable circumstances.
Yeah.
Maybe they're ill, maybe they're out of town, maybe they're injured, and they can't answer a notice because they're not where they can get it, and they're not recovered enough. Trying to live.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's, you know, and that's the, you know, that protection of the public is, I think it's paramount. And so I think for me, you know, when I think of, you know, I think of a company like Taxis, which is, I understand it's an option that you can use, but it is the nuclear option. I had an unprompted discussion with a real estate lawyer that's here in town, and he told me the story of one property owner that had about $800 in tax, delinquent tax. And by the time this company was done with him, they had $12,000 in legal fees and interest. And so it's something that I would be very reluctant to use that. I kind of I don't know the full story, but at this point I believe it's something that I would want to investigate more. I believe that taxis is something that may have been good to clear the rolls initially, but I don't know if they need to. I don't know if it's something that it's something that I would consider very hard, because that money goes out of our region. So you're extracting dollars that could be spent here on other things. That property owner is going to be responsible for.
Okay. Thank you. No more questions? All right, then each of the candidates will have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. And we will start with Mr. Katsas, who just finished answering the last question.
All right. And thank you so much. And so for everybody that came tonight, thank you. I've really enjoyed this opportunity, and also just this whole process. So I think every time you put yourself out here, you learn something more about people, about communities, and also about yourself. So I'm very much looking forward till next Tuesday at this point. And I want to say that I believe that I have a larger picture, so I look beyond what the Treasurer Office is, but I also look to the region, and I want to see how you can apply the tools that are given to you. And most of the time when I'm going into these different meetings, I'm a community member, because on council, my jurisdiction is small. I'm one of 7. I'm providing oversight. I'm not necessarily. I'm not picking the direction of the city, but I am providing guidance. But when you go out into the county, I'm there to help, and I'm there to work on things. But I don't have special powers. And so what I see with this office and with my work with the Athens County Foundation, that I see an opportunity to go into different conversations and have additional tools that I can help apply to other projects and initiatives that other community members and nonprofits are trying to drive forward. In a region like this, we have limited resources, and I think you really have to pull together in order to make the biggest and best impact. So thank you.
I want to thank everybody for being brave and coming out tonight. I think it was wonderful. I want to thank the League for all of the forums that they have put on. In addition to being a treasurer, I'm also a League of Women Voters member myself, and I think I said this in one of the other forums. One of my earliest memories as a little boy, my mother was the president of our League of Women Voters chapter when I was a kid, and I remember being dragged to board meetings as a little boy. So there's very few things more important than educating voters, and I'm very happy that you do that. And I want to thank Pete for coming out and for being an ethical opponent and keeping this a nice, clean campaign. I really do appreciate that. I mean that. I love being treasurer. I love being a public servant. I go to work every day trying to figure out how I can make things better for Athens County and for the people in it. I feel I'm a professional treasurer. I hope that you feel, watching us tonight, that I am well prepared for this, that I've done my homework, that I'm well versed in the law, but also that I have the temperament and the ability to bring people together to make things happen, because that's what it really is about. It's about making sure that the law is being followed and that we are working with taxpayers so that they can fulfill their lives and their obligations to the county, while at the same time being able to to accept the burden that they take on when they buy property. I love this job. I'd like to keep doing it for another 4 years. I think that I've had some real successes in the last year and a half, but we're really just getting started. There's so much more to do, and the road that we're traveling is going to get more difficult. We've lost the federal funding for tearing down houses with the land bank. We're going to have to be more creative about that. We've been banging this delinquent tax thing for quite a few years in this county. We're going to have to get more creative about just exactly how we do that, because the easy money has already been collected. And so I really feel that I'm up to that task and that I'm the best person for that job. And I hope you'll all stick with Rick. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you. I would like to close by thanking the candidates for their willingness to participate in this process. Thank you very much. And thanks to I forgot what TV station is broadcasting back there and when it's going to be aired. When will that appear?
It's on the City of Athens Facebook, City of Athens YouTube. It'll run periodically on the government channel and on the city website.
Oh, thank you, and we appreciate your being here and being willing to make that information available to folks who are not here. Thanks again to the candidates, and thank you all for coming out, and remember to vote on March 17th.
Thank you.